What's going on, traders? My name's Antoine Farrar. It is April 5th, 5 p.m. If you've been tuning in to our YouTube channel, you know what that means. Today is our weekly review where we pretty much outline what transpired in the market the prior week. So I'm pretty excited because this is our second week into Q2 and not to do our market forecast, but I believe these are the signs of the buyers that we needed to see that pretty much we've been waiting for a long time. Now, if you are tuning into this channel, make sure you do me a solid and hit that subscribe button, whether it's up or down, wherever it's located. Make sure you tap that into it. Definitely helps us with the algorithm. But let's go ahead and get into looking at the charts. Again, if you follow us, we primarily focus on indices with a little bit of cryptocurrency. Our goal with Digital Goatz Academy is like to focus on things that really move the market. So like indices, cryptocurrency, some commodities such as like oil and gold. We haven't been paying attention to oil like we have in the past, but make no mistake, we still look at it here and there, especially in correlation to indices. But anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into chart reading. So last week presented the support that I believe that we needed in order for the market to actually start buying up. So if you look, this is S&P right now. I'm gonna go through the big three, but pretty quick, right? So if you see last week, look what S&P closed at, right? S&P closed as a bearish, I mean a bullish engulfing, right? So it pretty much engulfed this bearish candle right here, pretty much signifying if you look historically, like if you look at the past, pretty much signifying at least our first signs that buyers are trying to present themselves in the market again and in order to bring the market all the way back up because we're in the Q2 now, so we should expect more rallies within the market, right? If you see currently, we've broken out of last year's high. So I think I said this like 2 weeks ago where I was talking about S&P. I believe that S&P would have been able to probably test like the high, but not all the way into it, like how we see like on smaller time frames. So this was the previous high for last week. It broke out of that area and it tested pretty much this dead zone. So if you drew like an imaginary box from like this high to this low, you would see that that's kind of like the dead space within the market. I count that as the market testing the previous high or a correction, pullback, whatever you want to say to make you feel comfortable in order to be pushed back up. But let's look what happened last week, starting from Sunday going into today, because we have pretty much like, what is it, 54 minutes until the market opens up for Sydney. Now you can't see my markups right now. I got them hidden because I didn't want anybody to be distracted while we're going through this. But last week, remember, the previous week, the previous week before last, right? The week before last. The week before last, the market sold off, right? So that Friday, so 2 Fridays ago, the market sold off, um, positioning us exactly where we wanted to be since the beginning of the year. But again, a lot of manipulation and trickery. Now, the one thing that the market did for like indices across the board, it gapped down. It gapped down and then it started creating a support. So I know for US 30, it was a little bit different, but as you can see right here, S&P created support. So we already have this annotated as consolidation. Again, we've talked about this before, where it's like this stuff just doesn't just happen. You know what I'm saying? Look what the market did overall. This was consolidation, so look where the market got brought down to. I talk about that a lot because I know that that's what indices are targeting. You just don't know what form of consolidation it's going to target. But look, this is consolidation right there. So for me, that gives me a good sign that the market is trying to buy back up. Not to mention if we just look at candlestick patterns. If you're familiar with candlestick patterns, you should understand what this is. This is a morning star pattern, which we wanted to continue. The only thing it could do that would bring the market down is if it wanted to create support or if it wanted to fill this wick right here, which I'm not sure. I thought last week This test was basically to test this high. You see it's wick to wick to bring the market back up, but we'll have to see when the market opens up today. I do think that this is definitely a bull run though. You know what I'm saying? We just have to see what the structure is that the market gonna present, whether it's gonna create support right here or try to test back down, which I don't think so. But like I said, we'll see. Yesterday, I mean not yesterday, last week to me was pretty clear signs. Like if we look at where we started at, this was our original buy zone for S&P, which S&P you tend to be able to take like, I mean, is that was that 280 or was that $28? Yeah, that's $27. So S&P wouldn't have been a bad move to get in. You'd just had to have been okay with taking um the brunt of the drawdown. But either way, this is where the market opened up Sunday, right? Always make sure annotate these gaps because normally that's where the market is targeting when you're not paying attention, right? Like it's normally targeting a gap, right? So broke out of this area, test basically to create support and then brought the market back up and then we had our pullback Thursday. Was that Thursday? Yeah, we had our pullback Thursday. And then as we went into Good Friday, because as you know, it was Good Friday on Friday, not to mention going into to Easter Sunday or Easter weekend, and it was non-farm payrolls, so the market wasn't playing favorably on Friday. But just looking at the technicals of this looks like the pullback that we needed to test this high, and then consolidation currently. So we just got to see where price is trying to push us, whether up or down. Either way, I still think that it's buying back up. It's just going to target whatever form of structure it wants to, which I'm hoping that we're going to continuously push up and ignore these pullbacks and maybe try to do a sweep later. Or, maybe like when Trump is out of office. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But I'm looking at this to still buy up overall, especially S&P. Now, remember, we talked about S&P where like it creates those patterns. Well, we talked about indices. So this is the consolidation pattern moving downward. Normally, if this thing was still selling, we would have to have price meet either pretty much back up to where this buy zone is at or a little bit higher, like back up into the gap that's up here for price to confidently validate that that is a sell. I don't think that that's a sell, but those are the signs that we're looking for if price is starting to show bearish momentum, which it still could, you know what I'm saying? Like it still could like sell off back down here just to buy back up. But again, we're not trying to read too far into the future. We're just trying to analyze what the data is showing us right now, right? So just based off of last week, I see this as support, and then we just got to see how price is going to react today. So, like I said, Nasdaq kind of did the same thing last week. Then again, starting off on the weekly time frame. You can see that another bullish engulfing candle. So look, this is the weekly time frame. Look at the patterns or look at the consistency in the market based off the time frame you're on, right? So we're on a weekly time frame and you see anytime on the weekly time frame price has presented like a strong bull candle, what has it done? It's brought us back up, right? So even over here before we started selling off, price was bringing us back up. So we still have to have like a breakout of structure, close above like a previous high, make sure we're not testing like a previous low for the market to pull back to and then sell off. But um, based off of what we're seeing, based off the candlestick pattern, these are signs that at least buyers are in the market, at least for this week, going into this week. And then we'll have to see how the market wants to react, whether it's going to try to do some pullback, create support, or if, this is a seller's market, which I don't think that's the case. Too many times when you look at indices, they present like the visuals that the market is bearish, and then all of a sudden you see a gigantic bull candle. I'm telling you, I watched this shit methodically, like all of like 2024. I was testing it out in 2023, all of 2024, like definitely towards the end. In 2025, like I reaped the benefits from doing that. So trust me, like it'll look like it's selling, and then all we need is some, political figure or somebody with some power saying something, and the market just goes to the moon from there. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of fear being built up in the market, which is good because like that's given opportunities for buyers. But if we just look at what it did on the hour, same thing. Where we at? Sunday. So this was Sunday. So you can see we created a little baby gap. Nothing to really brag about, like how we saw with S&P. And you see price actually collected that and went a little bit lower. So just real quick, outside of us talking about the weekly review, when you see structure, like don't get too wrapped, like don't get too like absorbed in watching the candlesticks that you trick yourself out of the trade. When price broke this like to the low side, I'm sure a lot of people were like, or a lot of traders were saying, man, this thing is probably selling. As you can see, this is still support. It doesn't have to be equal to, parallel, even. It doesn't, but that's still support. So pay attention to those moves like that. I just wanted to push that out there because a lot of times that was something that hurt me in the beginning, like chasing the market, over analyzing. Oh, it broke a form of structure based off the line that I drew. Remember, the line that we draw, that doesn't mean a damn thing in this market. You know what I'm saying? That's just stuff for us to analyze it and make sense of what's going on. But that doesn't mean that that's the structure. What Price told us was like, this is the structure. You know what I'm saying? Or this is the low point or the swing low to push us back up there. But I just wanted to kind of, address that because I know there's a lot of traders that like would have saw this and been like, oh, for sure it's selling. And then look what it did. Hit you with that Luke King, that whoopsies. But yeah, so same thing. As you can see, starting from where the market was at, this was another buy zone of ours. Starting from where the market is at currently, consolidated Friday was brought back up on Thursday after testing basically where we made support between Sunday and Tuesday. Yeah, so to me, this is a test of the high, and we should be clear for takeoff once the market finishes its market cycle, right? So last but not least, I'll probably touch on Bitcoin real quick. So this is obviously what I've been focusing on, US 30. Let me go ahead and block that out. So same thing, US 30. And to me, US 30 is like the leader of the pack when it comes to indices. So whatever I see US 30 do, I normally expect S&P and the Nasdaq to do as well. So if you just look at where my line is at, this is equal. This is what we wanted to see when we look at a test of the high or a breakout of the high and the market coming back to test. Remember, S&P and Nasdaq weren't really showing that. They have like they have that void space. If you go wick to wick, they're not actually touching each other from this high over here. If you go to US 30, based off of the candlestick, they're touching each other. And then when we go to the line chart, we can see that, yeah, basically lined up right there. So to me, this is the breakout. I mean, we have our breakout, and this is the test of the high that was made from last year when we started selling off due to those tariffs. So bullish engulfing again. Not to mention this looks like a candlestick pattern trying to present be made, but it's hard to call it right now until we get a little bit more data because of how like it closed. So it's like it looks like this, but obviously when you get more data, it'll probably end up looking like a morning star pattern. And it's like, why didn't we see that before? Because like the data wasn't filled yet in order for the market to show us those visuals. Remember, the visuals change like as more information is produced on the charts. You know what I'm saying? So pay attention to that. It shouldn't change that much where it's like a morning star pattern becomes like a evening star pattern, but like what you saw before, it may not be there in like 2 weeks, you know what I'm saying? Or a week from now, or definitely a month from now. It may look like a different visual as far as like the candlestick pattern being made. So we broke out of this high. We're testing it currently. I do believe that's where support was made. So if we scale down, we can kind of see. This is where, so you see US 30 did the opposite of NASDAQ. Remember, NASDAQ had created that gap, created that low, got brought back up, and then actually went lower than the previous low in order to create that support structure. US 30 is doing something a little bit different where to me it's trying to trend up, right? So you see this was last Sunday and I know like it brought all my markups back. I was trying to keep it. So this was last Sunday. This was the gap down and we created another morning star pattern on a smaller time frame on the hour. I think I was recognizing that too. And then what did we do? I think going into Tuesday, the end of Monday. So post market Monday. So after going into the Sydney and Tokyo session, so we bought up Monday and then towards like 11, which normally kind of happens towards like 11 noon time frame, the market starts tapering off in order to do what? To test this high. You can see that it tested, well, not this high, this gap. To test this gap that was made on Sunday. So twice. So we have one and we have two. So this did something like what we saw what Nasdaq did. Now, I had already identified like the possibility of this pattern being like a consolidation pattern upward. Once it completed like the pattern formation, like it told me everything I needed to know based off of sentimental analysis and based off of like past instances that the market has produced like a visual like this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm playing with market structure, but I'm also using what I'm comfortable with to analyze like the charts and stuff. So bought up, broke out of this area Tuesday. So Tuesday was the breakout, you know what I'm saying? So we pushed down. This was the area that we needed in order to test this gap. So we needed this pullback. This confirmed that yes, I'm testing Sunday's gap and I'm trying to push up away from Sunday. So we bought back up. Tuesday was the breakout, and then as you can see, Thursday is what brought us back to what the high of this. Forget even the pattern. This was just look at it like in a simple way, right? This was a previous high, right? Basic market structure. We have consolidation. We broke out of consolidation. This was a previous high. In order to continue an uptrend or a downtrend, what does it need to do? If it's an uptrend, it needs to break out of that area, either create support or test the previous high. If it's bearish, then it needs to break out of the previous low, come back to that area, test it, or create what? Resistance. In this case, we're looking for buys, so this is consolidation, broke out of that area, consolidated again. Test now, had it gone lower, then I might have been thinking that we were trying to create support all the way back down here. But since it pretty much gave us a swing low and then started consolidating from there, yeah, I believe that we're still bullish until price shows us otherwise. But this is the sequence that you want to see where buyers are presenting themselves. They're showing that, yo, I'm trying to make the market rally. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to push the market up. But just based off of what we've been seeing, like I said, our overall projection of this year was that we were going to have like a sell-off, like or a cool off, taper off, pullback, whatever you want to say, at the beginning of the year. Now the market was choppy, so throw in, confusing arguments and mixed signals in order to, take our money. That's just the nature of the game. We got the sell-off. So we came back to an area that price had broke out of last year, which according to market structure, what we've learned as traders, whenever price breaks out of an area and comes back to that area, we should, as long as it's creating support or a swing high, I mean a swing low or establishing some type of structure in that area of that high, we should treat it as what now? Support, which should bring the market up. And that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking with especially since it's Q2. I'm more confident now because we're going into quarter two, and these were some of the signs that we saw last year around Q2. If you look at this move up here, like down here, this was April 7th. April 7th is when we made this move. So you can see we had a major sell-off. That was the continuation, and then price opened up, probably bought up and then sold off again. No, 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 I'm sorry. It opened down. Oh, so it gapped. Yeah, this was the gap. So it gapped down here, bought up, then did a whole bunch of funny stuff. Test this area to bring the market back up. So we could have something similar where price, like in the next 2 weeks, tries to come back down to test this area, like the high of it. As you can see, this was the high of the market. So you see, broke out of that, test the high of the market. So we could either see something like this week or maybe next week. More than likely next week, just how the flow of the market's been going. Or hopefully we don't even see like a pullback and then, price is just forever bullish until it wants to do like a major correction. I know there's a lot of what's priced in. Rate cuts are priced in this year. So what I've taught my community is that when there's rate cuts priced in, you have to look at it as the market is infinitely going. Well, I wouldn't say infinitely. I say that loosely, but the market is aggressively going up. So if it's aggressively going up, they're going to have to, the Federal Reserve is going to have to step in and cut the interest rates. You know what I'm saying? So if the market was going down, then what would they do? They would do a rate hike. You know what I'm saying? So with them doing a rate cut, that tells me that what I need to know for this year that price is ultimately supposed to be bullish or in an uptrend. So because it's gonna be like aggressively to the upside, like they're gonna have to, cut these rates in order to bring the market down, which we would start seeing sells. I mean, not start seeing sells. We would start seeing the pullbacks whenever they would cut the rate. So whenever the market will get unbelievably bullish, and then we'll have an interest rate decision, and it'll be like, oh, well, we'll cut the market. That should like taper the market off in order to test whatever area that it broke out of. And that's after we've gone like dumb bullish. So if you paid attention, Donald Trump said that by the end of his term, US 30 will be at 100K. I mean, I'm not calling the man a liar, but to be honest, like what he's been saying has not been on point, but damn near close enough. We hit 50K right after he said, "Oh, US 30 will go to 50K at the World Economic Forum." So if he says that it's going to 100K and on the trading side as investors, we're seeing it, happen through the technicals, and yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. But last but not least, I'm gonna just kind of talk about Bitcoin. I do think that this is our buy zone for Bitcoin. Remember, if you remember 2 years ago, 3 years, 2023 is where we broke out of this consolidation zone. No, 2024. 2024. So at the end of 2024 is when we broke out of this consolidation zone. Price pretty much positioned us back to what? Consolidation. It's doing the same thing as indices. I kid you not. So we had an expectation that price could drive a little bit lower. I don't know what would cause that, but right now I do think that this is the buy zone. The fact that we're struggling to break this down, we already completed the end of this selling pattern down here. So I don't see a reason for the market to continue selling off. The only thing I could see is like it build its support down here, like as we saw over here, like build support structure to a degree, and then once there's enough information being priced in or enough buyers being like position themselves within this price range, like I think the market is about to go to the moon. There was an analyst that projected by 2030 Bitcoin will be at $700,000. Bro, that sounds far-fetched, but not unbelievable at this point. You know what I'm saying? That's a long way from now, but the way cryptocurrency has been moving, yeah, I could see that happening. So I do believe this is the time now to be reinvesting in cryptocurrency. Do your research to find a coin that makes sense while it's in your lifespan. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to get a coin that's going to take 30 years to produce some numbers. So obviously, the big wigs like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash. There's so many, but just find out, like, do your own research on its utility purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the reason for it? But also have a focal point on tokens that are now being used as a form of payment. So wink, wink, you know what I'm saying? But that's all I got, traders, man, because I'm excited. I'm about to get prepared for the charts as we have like what, 40 minutes left, 45 minutes left until the market opens up at 6 p.m. So I'm gonna go ahead and start analyzing the rest of my setups and pray we're in the right direction, right? But that's all I got for y'all today. I will catch everybody on the next video, which will be Tuesday. That's our market forecast. My community, I'll see you there. YouTube, I will probably see you either Wednesday or Thursday. No, I'll see you Tuesday again. But yeah, everybody have a successful trading week. Make a lot of money. Don't make no mistakes, and just be prepared for what Q2 is about to bring us. I'm Antoine Farrar, as always, signing off. Peace.